Good afternoon, students. I hope you have gone through the messages that I have posted in the group. Yesterday evening, before concluding the session, I have already said that, but the same thing once again I have just reiterated in our group that I'll be concluding this training module by this Friday. Since I'm concluding by Friday, I would like to conduct a mock test on assessment milestone 2 and assessment milestone 3. That's why I'm informing you one day before itself. So tomorrow, in the middle of my training session or at the end, I'll just think of when to conduct. So I'll be conducting a mock test on this milestone too. So I would like to ask you to once go through these collections, multi-threading, RDBMS, SQL, JDBC concepts, because from these topics you have to perform this assessment milestone too. So once go through these topics for tomorrow's mock test, and on Friday, I mean tomorrow evening, after my session is over, then you can go through these documents and HTML, JavaScript, CSS, all these things. Ajax I'm not going to include in the test because on Friday only I'm going to discuss Ajax now. That's the reason I'm not going to keep Ajax bits in that mock test 3. So I want you to go through these topics and HTML, JavaScript, CSS, servlets and JSPs, which I'll be completing today. And tomorrow I'll cover this XML concepts. And day after tomorrow I'll complete this Ajax. So when the date comes for your milestones, then again one day before I'll just take a class and I'll give quick recap by giving some additional tips for your assessment. And meanwhile, a few were asking me to post the logic building problems also into that YouTube playlist. So I'll be adding those things also before your milestone only. So don't worry about that. But just keep trying. Don't wait for the solutions to be uploaded by me. So you just keep trying, and whichever problems you feel complicated, those things better you discuss with your friends and try sharing how they have got that particular logic. All that you can just discuss and help each other. Apart from that, from my side, as I said, I'm going to add remaining solutions also. And coming to today's discussion, so yesterday itself I have covered this CSS and JavaScript, and I have shown you how to use various CSS elements. Also I have shown you the validation part of JavaScript. And at the end, I don't know how many of you have posted the attendance and left the session, but one query was there while I have asked for post your roll numbers and queries, if any, in the comment section. That is, what is post? That is in that JSP validation script. I have used a method called post. What is that post? So I don't know how many of you were there and checked that particular output variation. So we have two types of methods. One is get, the other one is post. Generally, we use get for transmitting uh, some insensitive information, and some shorter informations only we are going to uh, send it to the server, whereas post we will be using when we want to send larger information and some sensitive information to the server. This is the basic difference. And another difference also I have shown you with execution. I mean, at the end of my session yesterday, after your attendance was posted, I have shown the difference also. So by using get, whatever the input you are going to give there, that also will be appended in the URL. So there's no security, I mean there's no secrecy. So it's being exposed. It's being exposed that whatever the information you are passing or you are posting to the server, that is being shown in the URL if you use the method get. But if you use the method post, then the URL will not be appended by the information that you are submitting to the server. That's the major difference you need to remember. And even when do you use get and when do you use post, just now I mentioned. So basically you use get when you want to post some less information, like generally we will be using a get method when you want to post any query kind of thing. When you are interested to post any query kind of thing, then you use the method get, so that that query also, I mean the query string also will be appended to the URL. And post generally you will be using for when you are submitting some usernames or passwords, or when you are filling some form, online application form, and submitting to the server. In that case you will be having sensitive information that which cannot be appended to the URL. You want it to be kept secret. Such times you will be using the post method. So that's the basic difference between get and post methods. And the same things here we also see with servlets also. So, and even in the Google, I think you might have observed, even in the Google also you can see when you are giving any search string. So here you can see, suppose if I'm just clicking on this search string, here you can see in the URL. In the URL also you can see that's being appended. Whatever the search string you are giving now, that will be appended in the URL also. So something like that. Right now, here you can see how is a spreadsheet defined. This is the your search string we have given now, so this will be shown. So this is what. So generally we use get method when you want to send some query to the server. In that case you will be using, and also you can apply for regular usages. But just remember, when you have some insensitive information and you don't have any privacy issues, that time you can use the get method. But when you have some sensitive information and very larger information that you want to submit to the server, in that case we use the post method. Now, before beginning the execution part of this servlets and JSPs, let me just tell you why we are learning this particular servlets and JSPs. So we have started learning the technologies for performing web development, and as part of that, so far we have covered HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And why still we are continuing to learn JavaScript, JSPs, and other things also? As you all know, HTML is static. HTML is static. That means you are going to create all static web pages using HTML. That's the reason we add CSS and JavaScript in order to make HTML pages look dynamic. That's what we call DHTML, which is nothing but dynamic hypertext markup language. So as HTML is static, we go for DHTML, which is nothing but HTML plus CSS plus JavaScript. This is what you can just remember with regard to DHTML. So in order to create dynamic HTML, we add CSS and JavaScript to the HTML. Now, you might be knowing this term web server, and you will be making requests, and since you are making requests, you become the client, and whatever the pages you are requesting the server to send to you, then the server is going to respond by giving the pages that you have requested. That means the web server generally will be generating the static responses. Whatever might be your request, these requests are to be processed by the web server, and this web server, most of the times it will be generating static responses. But in today's world, we are not going to be convinced or satisfied with just static responses. We would like to get dynamic responses, and for generating such dynamic responses, we are learning this servlets and JSPs. I hope everyone understood the context. So, as web servers will be generating static responses, and we would like to generate dynamic responses. For that reason, we are using servlets and JSPs. And JSPs are extension to servlets kind of thing only. Mostly you can perform everything using servlets only, but in real time application development, they are separating the business logic from the presentation logic. So presentation logic is the one which will be exposed to the outside world. I mean, it's the actual user interface. It's the actual user interface, whereas the business logic is the one which will be processing the information that is provided by the end user by interacting with the user interface. So for that purpose, in real-time application developments, so every project, what they are going to do is they are going to separate the business logic from the presentation logic. So presentation logic purpose they will be using JSPs, and business logic purpose they will be using the servlets. This is where both servlets and JSPs come into picture. And the main job of servlet is to handle the client request. The main job of servlets is to handle the client request. So these servlets, what they will be doing is they will be storing the data to the database from the web server. Whatever the data that is being coming to the web server, that data will be stored by the servlets into the database. I mean at the server end. And then they will retrieve the data from database to the web server so that it can be sent to the client. It can be sent to the client. So this is what the role of the servlet. So the major role of servlet is to handle the client request, and what they will be doing is they will store the data to the database on the server side that is being received from web server, and they will retrieve the data from the database that is on the server, and then it will send to the web server so that it can be navigated to the client. So this is what servlets will be doing. And in general, if we have to speak, you must understand that we can create three types of pages basically we can create three types of web pages. Firstly, we can think of the static pages. The name itself makes you understand static pages means which remain same for all the users, that remains same for all the users. And second type of pages that you can create are partial dynamic pages. Second type of pages that you can create are partial dynamic pages. So these things are something like you might have seen in real time also. When you visit some of the websites, what you observe is not the entire web page will be continuously changing. There will be only few portion within the web page or website, whatever you are looking, only few portion will be keeping on changing. I hope I can just give the example of yesterday's my project Vintra. I have shown you one of my projects similar to Mintra. Na? So in that I have shown you login and registration when I am navigating. You might have seen the only the middle portion, the header portion and footer portion, they were kept the same. Only the middle portion was keeping on changing. So something like that. So not the complete page will be changed continuously. It's only the portion that is being divided will only be kept changing. So such pages we call them as partial dynamic pages. And the third type is fully dynamic pages. So here fully dynamic pages, I can just give you a best example. I mean your own situation, I can give you the example. So like suppose if there is a results page, assume that there is a results page. So the home page will be common to all, and each of you will be entering your hall ticket number, and then for each of you the page that will be retrieved will be different. I hope you are able to get the point. So there will be a home page for results, wherein each and every student will be entering their own hall ticket number, and then on clicking on submit button, then the results page will be filled with appropriate students values only. I hope you are able to get the point. That means here the page is not completely readily available. It's only created only when the request comes, and then the values gets filled. That means the page is completely not at all readily available. It's only being created once the request comes from the client, and then it gets filled with appropriate values. That's why I'm giving the example of your own results. So wherein everyone will be able to see the same page, and after you enter your hall ticket number and other fields, and when you click on submit, automatically the results page will be filled with your own values, and for other students it will be filled with their own values, something like that. But coming to partial dynamic pages, it completely based on the user interaction with the what you can say AWT components on the HTML page. I hope you are able to identify the AWT components on HTML page means what you will be having with AWT components: label, I mean buttons, text fields, drop down list, menus, something like the text areas. So whatever the AWT components you will be having, according to the values that are being filled, or according to the interaction of the user with those AWT components, the page gets changed. That's what partial dynamic pages. And static pages, anyway, they remain same for everyone. So these are the typical three types of pages that can be created: static, partial dynamic, fully dynamic. And unfortunately, none of the conventional programming languages can be used for this server side programming, because all these conventional programming languages follow the typical flow like input, process, output. I hope you are able to understand, because all the conventional programming languages which you have been working with, they cannot be used for the server side programming, because they just go by the flow like input, process it, give the output. This is what the typical flow of any conventional programming. So this cannot be used for the server side programming, where everything has to go on one machine itself. That's the reason we require a model where the client will be sending some request, and the process has to take place in the server, and then the response, which is nothing but the output, should be again shown on the client machine. Because the conventional programming, what happens, input will be given in the client machine, processing will be done in the client machine, output also will be displayed on the client machine. That means whatever the flow is there, giving input, getting that input processed, returning the output, everything will take place in the same machine. That's on the client machine itself. But coming to the this client server model, what we require, input will be given on the client machine, and processing must be done in the server machine, and then result again, whatever the response is there, it should be sent back to the client machine, so that the output will be displayed again on the client machine. So this is the reason we cannot go by the conventional programming languages for achieving this. I hope you are able to understand, because this theory is very much important, because you can't expect programming being given in the MCQ assessment. So that's the reason I am giving the complete context of why we are learning this servlets and JSPs. And once I just give you this brief intro, then I'll get started with the actual execution. And I hope most of you don't know how to execute these programs, because you might be executing only the console applications. This web related programming, I don't think most of you might have explored it. So if anybody have explored it, it will be a recap session. For others, it can be a kickstart how to create a project, I mean a web project, and then how to deploy it, and then how to run it in the browser. All that it will be complete kickstart for those who haven't explored it. Now let's get into the theoretical descriptions. Now these servlets provides multi-threading services. That means for each and every client request, a separate thread will be created which will process that particular client request. That's why we are saying servlets provide the multi-threading services wherein every client request will be processed by a separate thread that's being created at the server end. So that's what the thing you need to remember. And the protocol that will be used for this communication to happen, that's between the client and server, that is the HTTP protocol that will be used, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And I hope you know this, that the HTTP is a stateless protocol. HTTP is a stateless protocol which will not maintain any state information either at the client side or the server side. So in order to have this state management, because HTTP is stateless protocol na, so for having the state management and maintenance, we use sessions and cookies. We use sessions and cookies for managing and maintaining the state information, because whatever the HTTP mechanism that is being used for this client server communication, since it is a stateless protocol, we use sessions and cookies concept in order to maintain that particular state information. Now quickly let me just give you the servlet lifecycle, and then I'll open my IDE, and then I'll show you how to create a first servlet program, and then we shall start there. So servlet lifecycle methods are three methods: init, service, and destroy. These are the three lifecycle methods of this servlet. So init method, as the name itself makes you understand, init will perform the initialization, and it is invoked only once. It is invoked only once. And coming to the second method, service. So how many times it will be invoked is dependent on how many times the client will be requesting. So as many times the client requests, that many times the service method will be invoked. As many times client will be making request, that many times the service method will be invoked. And lastly, destroy. This is also invoked only once. So init and destroy are the two lifecycle methods that gets invoked only once during the life of a servlet, whereas the service method of servlet will be invoked will be dependent on the number of times the client is making request. So coming to the hierarchy of the servlet, the supermost interface in the servlet hierarchy is the servlet itself. Servlet itself is an interface, which is the supermost interface or parent. You can just understand it is the supermost parent in the hierarchy of servlet. And this servlet interface will contain all the lifecycle methods. This servlet interface contains all the lifecycle methods. And this servlet interface having a child, which is generic servlet. The name itself makes you understand generic servlet is the child of servlet interface, which contains the implementation of the servlet interface. That is, it contains the implementation of the lifecycle methods of this servlet. And this generic servlet again have a subclass HTTP servlet. HTTP servlet is the child of generic servlet that contains implementation of all HTTP services. It contains all HTTP services implementation. And this HTTP servlet in turn having a child login servlet. This HTTP servlet having a child login servlet. So which is the actual user defined servlet that extends the HTTP servlet. So what we are going to do is with my explanation, I'll show you creating a servlet that extends this HTTP servlet only. So this is the hierarchy you just need to remember. So servlet itself is an interface which is the parent of uh, the hierarchy of servlets, and it has a subclass generic servlet which has the generic implementation services, and which has further subclass HTTP servlet that contains implementation of HTTP services, and this HTTP servlet will be extended by the servlet which we are going to create. I hope everyone got it. Now let me get into my IDE, because I don't want again to read these informations which is already there. So that's the reason I'll directly show you the very first application, how to create and deploy. So you require this Java Enterprise Edition. The standard edition will not be enough for your creating this web projects. So here you can see on the top Java EE. So Java Enterprise Edition. So the standard edition, I mean the SDE, the standard desktop edition will not be sufficient for creating the web projects. So you require the Java Enterprise Edition. Again, this you can download it from the eclipse.org official website itself. In the eclipse.org under downloads tab, you can look for this Enterprise Edition, and then you can just download it. And then for creating these servlets or JSPs, what we are going to do is we will not go for the regular style of creating a Java project. So you have to go to File, New, and there you must be finding. So here you can see dynamic web project, and if you are not finding this dynamic web project directly here, I mean under New, if you don't see this dynamic web project, then what you just need to do is go to Other, and then this wizard will be opened. There you can see this web, and then under the web you can look for this dynamic web project. So this is how you will be using the dynamic web project rather than going for the Java project. And then click on next, and then here few things you just need to be remembering. So here you need to give the project name. So here I am just giving some name demo, and then here, if this is the very first time you are creating the web project, all these fields will not be available for you, since I have already used this Java Enterprise Edition earlier for my practices. That's the reason you can see all these fields filled. But if for the very first time, if you are downloading this Java Enterprise Edition, then you don't see all these fields being filled. So you need to select. So here you can see the drop down menu. For me right now it's already set. For you, for the very first time, I mean for the very first time, you will be finding various Apache versions. So you require the web server now. So I have used Apache Tomcat web server. So it's up to you which web server you would like to use, you can use. But I recommend you to go for this Apache Tomcat web server only, because this is required for both Wipro and Virtusa environments. So use this Apache Tomcat. You can use any version from 5 onwards, no issues. Any versions you can use, but by default when you are trying to download it, you can download the latest version itself. And then, yeah, as I am saying, for the very first time you don't see directly this runtime being added. So you will be getting a drop down menu. There you have to choose the new runtime environment. Here you can see like this, you have to choose the new runtime environment, whichever version, and then accordingly you will be clicking on next, and then you will go to the folder where this Apache Tomcat is installed in your machine. Then you will be getting this configuration set. And similarly, next here you will be going to sorry, here version, dynamic web module version. So here always choose the latest version. So if you are using some older versions of what do you say, Java or some other packages that you are importing, If they are of some older version, then you can choose the lower versions. But by default, try to always select the higher version. And all these things for the very first time only you need to do. Just remember, once you create at least one project, if you create at least one project by setting up all this target runtime and dynamic web module version, for the further projects you don't need to give all these things. You can just give on the project name itself, and then you can click on next. And here by default it will show you what it is going to do, and then again next. And here you can see the root will be demo. That means this web project root is the demo, and then the content directory is going to be, I mean, the web content directory will be created, under which all your HTML files, JSP files, and other CSS files, and any other images, they all will be part of the web content directory, which is nothing but folder. That's what you just remember. So our web project name is going to be demo, and under that demo src folder will be created. Under that src folder we are going to create our java classes and other servlet classes, I mean servlet programs. All those things we are going to create under the src folder. And there will be a web content folder also will be created. And in this web content folder we are going to create all our JSPs, HTML files, CSS files, images, any other text files. All those things we are going to place it in the web content folder. And then always remember to select this web.xml deployment descriptor file. We require this web.xml file because this file is known as the configuration file. This web.xml file is known as the configuration file, and for one web application, one web.xml is sufficient. You don't create multiple web.xmls, only one web.xml file for entire web project. Your project might, I mean to say simply one website. Your website might have thousands and tons of web pages linked to each other, and invoking several other servlets and other files, but still one web.xml is sufficient. So all the mappings we are going to do it in this web.xml, and this is the configuration file. So select that and then click on finish. So now observe what happens. So here you can see, so demo is the name which I have given to my web project. So here you can see the icon globe symbol have come, because it's not the regular Java project, it is the Java web project. That's the reason here you can see capital J and globe symbol indicating that it's a web project. So that's how you can recognize it's a web project. And here you can see automatically it creates all the directories that are required for creating a web project. And here you can see the deployment descriptor version 3.0, because that's the version I have chosen. I hope you remember at the time of creating dynamic web project, the version I have used is 3.0 now. So that's what here you can see 3.0. And this Ajax later we will see anyway. And under this Java resources you can see src folder. I hope you are following. So under the Java resources you can see src folder. So currently there won't be anything in this src folder, and we will create one servlet program, and we will see yeah, src folder, you know what is its purpose. And then here you can see under web content directory meta inf, don't change this manifest file, and web inf, here you can see library, and then web.xml. So this is the web.xml we are going to use for performing some configurations. So just remember this. And this is how the hierarchy of folders will be created automatically when you choose to create a new dynamic web project. I hope you are able to understand now. Okay, let me first create a simple JSP, because for you to understand how we are going to do that. And let me just show you. So for creating HTML files or JSP files, what you will be doing is you are not going to right click on the src folder. So far you might be seeing for all the programs that I've been creating, I'm doing right click on the package, that is the default package within the src folder, and going for this new. But when you are going for this creation of html or jsps, you are going to do right click on the project name itself, and you will choose new, and then you look for jsp. Yeah, here you can see, and JSP file, HTML file, again the same thing. If you don't see this JSP file, HTML file, you can just go to other, and there you can again under web you can see them. So select that JSP file, next, and here I'm just giving the name index.jsp. It's for your understanding, I'm just giving the name index.jsp, and anything with index.jsp or index.html, that will be the first file that will be loaded by the web server. That means any file with the name index.jsp or index.html will be the first processed file by the web server. Just like for the console, what is the starting point of execution? Main. Similarly, for web server, what it will be loading is the index.html. Index.html is the first page that gets loaded. That's the reason for all the websites, as soon as you give the URL, directly you can see the index.jsp being loaded. I mean, whatever it is, index.html or JSP will be the one which will be loaded. And later, whatever the links you are going to click, that will be done. And click on finish. So here you can see what happened. Let me just collapse this. Here you can see. So even though I am doing right click on the project and going for this index.jsp creation, so you can see where it is falling. It falls in the web content. As I mentioned, all the HTML files, JSP files, all the text files, all the image files, all the CSS files that you are going to create under a web project will be falling in the web content folder. This I have shown you in my Vintra project also. So this is how it will be done, and by default all this information it automatically generates. That's the best advantage with IDEs. And here you can see it is giving the complete header information. You don't need to write or type any header information. By default the header information is included here, and it is saying you can insert your title here. So here let me just remove this and write my first web project, something whichever you prefer. So you can just write, and within the body, so it's nothing but HTML style only. So let me just write again the same. So my first web project. Okay, so I'm just writing a simple text in the body. Now what you can do is, so after you did this, now when you do right click, so here you can see run as. So by default, since we haven't created Java project, instead I have created dynamic web project. That's the reason run as is not showing Java application. Instead it is directly showing run on server. It is directly showing run on server. So you can just click this, and here it will show you the server. It will show you the server which you have selected at the time of creating this dynamic web project. So it is showing this particular server which is already started, and then you can click on finish, and so it is saying server may need to be restarted. Just click on OK, no problem. You can just allow server to be restarted. So here you can observe what are the things happening. So it is giving all the information. Okay, if you are having antivirus, it will ask you this. You can just click on allow access. Okay, it already came. So you can just click on allow access if it is prompting you the dialog box. And here you can see my first web project, and here you can see uh, http colon localhost colon 8080 and slash the project name, and then index.jsp. And this name is coming because you are doing it within the default browser. So what we do is, let us just alter. So what you can do is, you can go to window, I mean in the menu you can go to window, and there you can see web browser. You can see web browser, and by default, I hope you can see, by default which will be selected, internal web browser. And internal web browser what I am using is the Apache Tomcat now. So that's why it is being opened. And other web browsers also it will be listing. So default system web browser, which is Google Chrome for me. And most of you will be having Google Chrome as default system web browser. So let me select this. So I hope you observed. So window, web browser. So I have selected default system web browser. And now let me go to this index.jsp, and once again let me just run this. So run as, run on server. Again it will give you the server, and click on finish. So now you can see my Chrome got opened because I have selected the Chrome now. So here you can see the title, my first web project, my first web project. And here you can see my first web project. So there's nothing much. I have just shown you how you can change the browser thing also. So as I mentioned, you did not mention which should be the starting point. Directly it have given this index.jsp. And the other way to also do this is, so you can also do it here. Generally what we'll be doing is, right now I've created only one single page, but generally in real time we'll be having tens or hundreds of pages now. In that case what you do is, whichever the one has to be the home page, that you will just name it as index.jsp, and you directly do right click on the project, and then go for this run as, and then you select this run on server. Again the same. So click on finish, and there you can see. I hope you observed the difference. Now it is not giving this index.jsp in the URL. You are catching my point. So it is not giving index.jsp because it will not be given. Earlier it have given because I have started from the file name itself. If you are running from the file name, that file will be included in the URL. But otherwise file will not be included in the URL. So my URL will not contain the index.jsp. So index.jsp should be the home page which you want to get opened as part of the website or URL which you are providing. So here you can see, in this you can see URL containing index.jsp, because this one I have opened not from the project, I have opened from the file. That's why it have given that. But this one, since I have opened from the project, you can see only the project root is given but not the file name. So this thing you can just remember. And now let's get into insight. And okay, so I hope you understood this, how we have created this. And now what we will look at is, we will look at some more things, like creating a first server, like that we will see. And later I'll just discuss the JSPs in detail. Now coming to servlet, let me create very first servlet. So I'll just close this, and then let me even close this, and then, so where do you need to create servlet? Under src. So right click, new, and don't choose class. If you choose class, it will be for the Java application purpose. Since we are created this for dynamic web project, So I will choose servlet, because by default it will provide me the code that is required default. So choose this servlet, and you can even provide some package. Like I have said you, generally we will be using packages. Like I have shown you my end CPC project na, com.wipro.dao, com.wipro.bean, com.wipro.util. I hope you remember that. So something like that. If you want, you can specify the package. Right now, I'm not interested about package, so I'll directly give the servlet class name. So since it's my first servlet, let me use the name first, and then here you can see what is being the super class. So I have already said you when I have discussed the servlet hierarchy. Servlet interface is the parent of the hierarchy, and which is having a child generic servlet, which is having a child http servlet, and which will have our servlet classes. So that's the reason here you can see super class, what is it being? http servlet. As per the hierarchy, my first servlet is going to have parent as http servlet, which in turn internally will be having parent as generic servlet, which in turn will have parent servlet interface. Anyway, let me just click finish. So here you can see the servlet automatically, since I have chosen servlet, all the import statements that are required for servlet are being added. So this is the advantage of going for servlet. If you go to choose servlet class, then you can give file name. I mean, you can just give the same way first. But what you have to do, you have to import all these statements, and you have to write all this code explicitly. By choosing servlet, automatically you can see what is being coming here at web servlet. This is the annotation, and what is it showing? This will be the URL now. This will be the URL, like earlier you have seen a demo like that. Here you can see now slash first, this will be the URL, and here you can see uh, this particular constructor invoking the parent constructor, which is nothing but the http servlet in our case. And then here you can see the two methods, do get and do post. I have already said you the purpose of this do get and do post. So do get will be using when you want to send uh, insensitive information, and when the information that is to be sent is very short in length, then we use the do get. Otherwise we use the do post method. Whether you use it or not, just leave it as it is, and use the method whichever you wanted. So here I am using this do post method, and I'll just try to display a simple message itself. So this servlet having some implicit objects, inbuilt objects are there, like request, response. Like this we have some implicit objects. By using the implicit objects directly, you can use the methods. And here you can see http servlet request is having the object request. Similarly, http servlet response having the object response. As the name itself makes you understand, request is used to fetch the values that are provided in the web page. Response is used to send response back to the web page. So request, I mean http servlet request, is used in order to fetch the information that is provided by the user in the web page or the form. Whereas the response, http servlet response, is used in order to send the response back to the client's web page or the form. So this is what the purpose of this request and response objects. So I'll directly use these objects. Now for that, what we have to do is, first we need to set the type of response you are going to provide. So here you can see when I am giving response dot, we know this IDE, so it is providing me the information. So just go for, so set content type. Here you can see set content type. Observe this, observe my mouse cursor position. Set content type string argument it will take, which will provide the servlet response. So here I am just giving I'm just using this text or HTML. So whatever the response I'm going to pass is going to be uh, text only. And then next what I'm going to do is I'm creating a print writer object. So this print writer object is used to print information on the web page. So here you can see again response dot I require writer in order to write the information. Where is it? Yeah, here you can see get writer. So I'm using this get writer method in order to get the instance. And if you move here, it will give you, yeah. So print writer is from java.io package. So just select that. Automatically it gets imported. And now what I'm using is pw dot. So print or println you can use. So I'm using println, and in this println I'll just include one simple message: welcome to Servlet. Okay, Servlets, whatever it is. So this is how you can just do that, and after that you just require to close this particular print writer object. So I hope everyone understood the very first servlet how did I create. So what you just need to do is you just need to right click on your src folder, and then what you have to do is you have to either create a package and do that, otherwise you can directly go for a default package and then give the servlet name. Automatically it gives you the skeleton. So in the skeleton, whichever fields you wanted to fill, only those fields you can fill. Remaining things you can just leave them as they are. So don't touch the remaining things, just leave them as they are. Now here you can see I'm using do post method, and I've set the content type as text or HTML by using the response object, because response object is meant for sending response to the web page, whereas request object is meant for getting the information from the web page. So we will use shortly the request also. So let's just try to run this. So right click, so run as, run on server. So again it will give me that. So restart server, okay. So the process will take place here actually. Yeah, it's processing. You can see all that processing information there, and then it should open in the web page. So nothing being shown. Okay. Otherwise, since I have shown you this, rather than coming every time here, what I'll do is I'll just set back my browser as internal, so that I'll get to see the information here itself. So web browser, I'll just make it internal. So I have shown you how to do it in the default Chrome browser. So run as, so run on server. Again, click on finish. So it's not listing anything. Okay, let me just add the HTML part. Otherwise, since it is the HTML code that will be understood, I'll just try to add that. What I'll do is I'll just put this in so println, and within this I'll use, okay, anyway we require double quotes, and here I'll be using HTML and then the body tag, and the same thing again I need to close it now. So for that reason I'll just copy this, and then I'll paste it, and then here I'll just use the closing tags, so forward slashes. Let's save this and run as run on server. So click on finish, restart the server. So still not showing any content. Okay, okay, I think what we do is, let me just try this. So here, so let me just add this. So libraries. Okay, let me just try with adding this servlet API. So I'm just trying. So here under libraries, you can see web app libraries. Under libraries, you can see web app libraries directory. So there you can just do right click, and then you can go to build path, and then you can go to configure build path, and in this configure build path, okay, so let's click on this external jars, and here you can go to the Apache Tomcat installation folder, and then you can open that. In that you can see lib folder. Under lib folder you can find servlet API. So just try to add this jar, we will see. So open. So you can see the servlet API jar is being added, and then click on OK. So now you must be, yeah, now you can see servlet API is being added. So I just attached this jar file from the Apache Tomcat folder. Now let's try running this. Just click on things. It takes time, so it's processing. So still, why the servlet is not loading? Any mistake we made in the code? So HTML body. Okay, okay. Body tag should be closed first, and then the HTML tag. Let me save this. Tag closing is self. And let me just remove this JSP file for time being, because that's the default one. Anyway, it doesn't make difference, but still run as. So again the server is restarting. Still it's not loading. Okay. Just give me a second. So somebody suggesting me to try with do get instead of do post. I don't know will that work. Let me just try. Control X, Control V. So content type text or HTML properly given, and then HTML and body tag, and then welcome to servlets, and then the body tag is closed, and this one is closed. Okay, let's try run as, finish. Okay, let's see. That should not be difference actually. Okay, so it's coming with do get. So thank you, Dheeraj. So with the do get it is coming, but it should come with the do post also the same manner. Anyway, so this is one way of doing. So what you can do is you can just expand these libraries, and then in the web app libraries you can just go to the build path and add external jar, and add the servlet API jar as well. So it will make it work like this. So but generally it should work with do post also in the same fashion. Okay, then now what we will do is I'll show you the web.xml mapping configuration. So that's very important in real-time application developments. So yeah, here is my web.xml. So in this web.xml, here you can see by default index.html, index.htm, index.jsp. This is why when you are giving index.jsp or index.html, directly it is getting executed, because here you can see in the configuration file, the configuration file clearly displays that the project display name is demo, and the welcome file list it is giving clearly. So it should first look for index.html. If the project web content directory doesn't contain index.html file, then it will look for index.htm file. If that is also not found, then it will look for index.jsp file. I hope you are able to look this. So this is the reason first one it will be doing the check of index.html not found, index.htm file. If not found, index.jsp will be the first one to be loading. Now what you can do is here you can even create your own mapping. Your own mapping in the sense you can even give your URL mapping. So how you will be doing is here within this web app, within this before web app closing tag and after the welcome file list, you can provide your own servlets mapping. So how you are going to do that is, so servlet, sorry, without opening I'm just trying to close. So servlet, and then let me just first create structure. So here you can see now servlet have come, and then okay, so next what you have to do is you have to give the servlet name. Here you can see automatically it's coming. So servlet name, and within the servlet name you can give any name. I'm just giving my name. You can give any name to the servlet. It's only for calling purpose. This name is only for calling purpose. Next you require servlet class. So I'm using servlet class, and this class name should be your class name. So here you have seen what is that I have created. My class name is first. So you have to give that class name. So here give the same way. So in that first also you can see F is capital. So the same way you have to give. So now what we have done is we have just declared servlet name as Krishna, and that particular class name is first. So Krishna is referring to first servlet class. Next what you have to do is you have to provide the servlet mapping. So here you can see servlet mapping tag. So use this, and then under this again what we do is we are going to create the servlet name. So here you can see under servlet mapping you require these two tags. So servlet name, So what is the name I have given? So my name itself I have given, and next you have to provide the URL pattern. So URL pattern. So here I'm just giving the URL pattern, something like simple message, welcome. So this should be my URL pattern. So like this, you can even provide the mapping. So this is how you will be adding all your servlet mappings. So which to be first given, next which to be given. Like that, you have to give the servlet mapping. Once you give this servlet mapping, now once save this and let's go to the project. Okay, first.java, and let me just run this once again and see. Run on server. So again the same things, finish, restart the server. So here you can see now URL pattern. So project name and then the welcome. So the only reason is earlier you can see the class name also being shown here. Before giving the URL pattern, you can see the class name being shown here. So project name and then the class name is shown. So you would like to hide that and you would like to provide your own URL. So that is possible by performing this configuration in the web.xml. I have already said you web.xml is meant for configuration purpose. So I have provided the mapping. So here you can see what is the mapping we have given. So here slash Krishna. So by default this slash comes after the root. So root you know that it is demo. So that's the reason here you can see demo and then this welcome. And one more thing here you need to remember is, suppose right now my Apache Tomcat is at 8080 and no conflict is there. By suppose if you have some other softwares installed and this port conflict if you are getting means, what you can do is in case if you get port conflicts, only in that case you require to perform some uh, things like what you need to do is you just need to open the I mean Windows R, and then you just need to give services dot msc, and then you should be getting the services window opened. Yeah, here you can see all the services got opened, and now what you can see is, so here you can see whichever port that is being run, and whatever the port I mean if you are getting service conflict, it will give you so and so software is running. So you can just look for that particular name here and then select that, and then after you select that, here you can see right now it's already no, stopped service only. But if at all you get some port conflict, that means saying so and so service is already running on that port, what you can do is time being you can just go to that service, and then you will find stop service. All these are already, yeah, like this. Here this is how you will be getting. You can select that particular service and click the stop the service, and then you can try running that same application, which you will get it executed. So this you have to do it only when you get service conflict information. I hope you are able to understand. This you have to do only when you get service conflict information. So yeah, when you are getting any port conflict, and you can just go to that services.msc, and then you can select the service information which it is giving in the console. In the console, it will give you. It will give you in the console what is the service name that is already running on that port number. So accordingly, you can choose it and stop it temporarily, and then you can run your application. So this is one thing you just need to remember. And next thing what we have to look for is I have shown you this style also, servlet api.jar, and the other way people also will be doing is, but this is the simplest way. you can just add this servlet API. But the other way people will be doing is they will go to this demo, they will copy this demo, and then they will go to this Apache Tomcat installation folder, and there will be a folder web apps, and in that web apps folder you can paste this project. That is the other way of running the servlet programs. I hope you are listening. So the other way of running people, what they will be doing is, instead of adding the jar, you can also just copy this folder and paste it in the web apps folder under Apache Tomcat. So that's how you can also achieve this task. So now what we'll do is, let's create a simple HTML form, and then we will just read some information from the user, and we will understand how do we get this used in the real time. So for that, so anyway, here I have given this mapping. Let's not touch this, and let me just close this, and let me just create a simple HTML file. So here I'm just going for a HTML file. So I have shown you in that anyway, the first thing it will be looking for is index.html. So I'm giving that index.html, and then here it have given me, and here you can see index.html, and in this index.html structure is already given. So within this what I'll do is, I'll just create a form. So yesterday I have done the same thing I'll do. So form method equal to, so here you can see the two method names it is giving, get and post. So I'm just using get, since I have already written that. Action equal to, so you are going to provide the JSP or servlet that you have, which is going to perform this particular action. So my servlet is the name first now, so I'm using that first, and then the same thing yesterday we have created now, something like that, username, and then input type equal to text, and then name equal to name. Yesterday whatever we have seen, the same things I'm using, and then okay, let's just stop here for understanding only how it will be navigated. Now let me just give a button, input type equal to submit. Then we have to give the value of the button. What should the button contain? So value equal to, again submit, then close this, and then anyway form is closed already. Okay, that is only suggestion. Control yes. So form method equal to get, action equal to first, username. So one text field we are giving, and then we are doing this. Now in that so in this let's just add a simple thing. Otherwise here anyway this is there. So what I'll do is, I'll just write here so pw.println, and then here request dot. So you can find a method with a get parameter. Yeah, here you can see request dot get parameter, and within this you have to provide the parameter name that you have used in that form. So the username parameter name I have used is the name. So this you have to put in double quotes. So I hope you have observed when I'm creating that form. So here, this parameter, this is the parameter. So name, I have given a parameter name. So this is the name I am using there. So here I am just using this particular name, and then okay, rather than doing this, and then okay, let me just concatenate with the message welcome, and then okay, double quotes should be closed, and then concatenate this request dot get parameter. Let's see how it will work. And if you want this looking good, so we can even add this h1 tag, that is heading. You can append it, you can append that, and then again after this value you have to close it now. So for that I'm just using again double quotes h1 closing tag. And now let me just put this in comments, otherwise see what happens. Save this. So I hope you observed what I have done. So index.html file I have created, which will be the default one that will be loaded, and in that I have just created a simple form whose method I have set it to get, and the action I have redirected to this first servlet, and in that I am just creating a username text box, and the parameter name I have set it as name, and then I'm creating a submit, and that particular name parameter I'm using in the servlet by getting that value. So request.get parameter will return that value of this particular name, and that I am just concatenating to welcome, and which I am just using the h1 header, I mean heading tag. So looks like fine. Let's run this and see. So as I have said, right click on your project, go to run as, go to run on server. So by default it will look for the index.html as default now. Let's see. So yeah, it's coming. So here you can see now the URL, you can see what it is showing. So it is not showing any file name because I haven't right clicked on the index.html now. That's the reason directly it is with giving me the project name itself. So here let me just give the name Krishna, and then on clicking submit, what should be the action first? Let's see. Yeah, here you can see how it is coming. So you can see welcome Krishna. So the query is why do post is not working. That's what I'm surprised. Let me just once again try. So do post also will do the same thing as I have mentioned, with only simple difference. That is appending of the string will be there with do get, but appending of string will not be there with do post. I'll just try once again. But I hope this particular application what I have shown you is clear for everyone. So here what I have done, I have just created an index.html and then a simple text field. I have just used a simple text field, and then with that text field, what we are doing, we are just reading the some value that is provided, and that I am passing it to the first servlet. And in the first servlet, I am doing with getting that value by using this request.get parameter, which is concatenated, and then we have just displayed that, which you can see here how it is being coming. And now here you can see. I hope you can observe the difference. Here you can see now demo first colon, I mean question mark, name equal to Krishna. What is this first? Which we have given the mapping. In the mapping, so anyway, mapping doesn't come here because I have given this URL now. So get is coming, so it's coming this with this string appended. So let me just try with post very quick. I'll just see if it will work or not. So I'll just change it. Let's see, and I'll close this also, and this. here. Okay, let me just copy these 3 lines are required now. Control C, Control V, and now let's keep here comments. Do get, let me just put it in comments now. So now only do post is there. Let me save this, and once again let's run this project. Finish, restart my server. Let's see. So username have come. Again, let me just give this and see Krishna, and then submit. Yeah, it's coming. Do post is also coming now anyway. So do post, now you can see the difference. URL is not being appended. So whatever the information that you have submitted in the form, that's not being appended in the URL. So here you can see now. This is the difference. I hope everyone understood how we got this. So the demo project and from index. So this is where we are initially, and after giving this and submitting it, so it's being redirected to the first. So that's what you can see here. So do post is also working fine. I hope everyone understood how to create this hierarchy. So first thing you just need to remember is you need to have an Java Enterprise Edition, and then you just need to go for web project creation. And after creating a web project, you just need to create servlets and other Java classes in under SRC folder with packages or without packages usage, and then normal HTML, CSS, images, JSPs you need to create under the web content by just right clicking on the project name itself and going for new HTML or JSP or anything. And by default, as I have shown you, web.xml, by default it looks for index.html file, which will be the starting point of page loading as part of running the project. That's the web project. And next it looks for index.html, next it looks for index.jsp. So whichever is first found, that will be executed. After that you can provide your own servlet mappings, all these things like this you can provide. So I hope everyone understood how did we create all this. And still I have to show you the request dispatcher. That is, how do we create an interface. Actually request dispatcher itself is an interface. So using that request dispatcher, what we do is we will define an object which can dispatch your request to any other resources. So request dispatcher is an interface whose implementation can be defined with an object that can dispatch the request to any other resources. The resources can be other HTML or image or JSPs or even some other sources. Anything you can just have that resource. So unfortunately that particular implementation is not provided in that PBLapp material also. So for that I think it will take some time. Okay, then I think it will take some time. Again, I have to do some creations here. Okay, let's do it and end the things here. So username, and let me just add some more thing here. So just like previously, I'll just also create a password. Very quickly I'll do this request dispatcher. I'll show you how to do that. And then so let me copy this and paste it here. And here I'll just change this to password. And then here the parameter name I'll use pwd. I think this form is sufficient. So I'm just trying to take this, and I'll here first is there now in this do post. So what we'll do is we will also so I'll just read that string name equal to request dot, so get parameter of name. Very quickly we will see this, because again I don't want to postpone this. Similarly, let's get the password also, whatever that's being provided. And then here let's see, the name I have used there is pwd, so the same things I'm using. This left hand side variable names, you can have anything of your choice. So and then if pwd dot equals, so I'm just giving directly password should be something like Krishna, then only it should process things. Why this double quotes? Okay, okay, here double quotes is understood. So if password is Krishna, then I'll be using this request dispatcher. As the name itself makes you understand, it's the one which will dispatching the request to any other resources. So this implementation examples were not given in that PBLapp also. That's why I wanted to show this. So request dot. So you can find so get request dispatcher. Yeah, here you can see get request dispatcher. So here what you do is you will be giving where it should go. So for that I'll create another one with the name second. We don't have this servlet. I'll just create it very quickly. So second is the servlet name, and request dispatcher. Yeah, you can just add it. And then here what I am doing is request dispatcher object is there now. So that I am using to forward here request comma response. So you just need to pass the request response objects. So if password is equal to Krishna, then only I'm going to forward the request to second JS, second servlet. So if it is servlet, then only you'll be writing like this. If it's going to be HTML, second dot HTML you have to write. Otherwise, you have to write second dot JSP, something like this. So anything you can provide here. You can just give inside the request dispatcher either a servlet or a JSP or some other HTML. You can give anything. Since I am going to create another servlet, I just used this second, and then here what you will be doing is else. So what? So if it is not, then what we'll do is we'll just redirect it to the same page. we'll redirect it to the same page. So here you can see now what I am doing. I'm just giving index.html itself. So if password is not Krishna, then I'm redirecting it to the same page. And if you want, you can even provide additional information like pw.println wrong password. Something like this message also you can provide. So you can display some message, and then you can just forward that information to index.html, which is the same page itself. And then after this, you can just close this, and are these closes sufficient? Else, and this is the close for method. So yeah, this is it. Now what we do is we just create the second one. So under src again, new servlet second, just use the same name what you have used there, and then oh sorry, here second I have to give second. Package name leave it empty so that it falls in the default one only. And next, anyway we are not going to do, see, just click on finish. So now second will be created. So now again in this post method, what I'll just do is I'll just okay, let's copy those lines from first. So this request and response dot set, control C, and then in second let us again use the same do post method, control V, and then let's display simple message p.println, and in that println again the same message. What is it? h1. Okay, again double quotes missing, and here simple welcome. Let's just stop it there, and then close this h1 tag. Yeah, it should be fine now. And then yeah, pw.close, you just need to close this particular thing, object. And now what we have to do, one more thing is, in that web.xml you just need to create a mapping for this also. So just the same way here how we have done. So the same I'll just copy and I'll just change, control V, and then sorry for that, here I'll just name this as I'll just change the servlet name lava. Here also the same name should be used, lava. And here the class name, this one is not first, this is second now, this second servlet now. So second, and the URL pattern, let's just make this welcome to. Just add that mappings and save it. Now let's run this and see how it works. So I'm just trying to show you how you use the request dispatcher. Run as, run on server, yes. Again it's asking for Tomcat, obviously, yes. Finish, restart server, okay. Let's see how it comes. I'm intending to show you request dispatcher, how it is being used to forward the request to other pages. Okay, since I haven't used break tags, if I use break tags properly, they fall in separate lines. So username you can give it anything because I haven't specified any condition there, but only for password I have set some condition that it should be Krishna only. Let's see. Oh, so it's not being linked, so it is showing error. Let me quickly fix that. Okay, some first.java, it is showing some error there actually. Okay, closing is not there, I think. Here red mark you can see. So if here it is closed, and else here it is closed. Acha, So there is a additional close brace, I think. Yeah, there's additional close brace. So without resolving the errors, we have just run the web project. So else is closed here, and then pw close, and then this post method close, and then obviously the class close. Okay, then now let's save this. Yeah, now you can see the red cross mark went off. So once again, let me just run this. So I haven't seen that red cross mark. So whenever you have seen that red cross mark, understand that there is some error. So first resolve, finish, restart the server. Let's see. Now it should work, I hope. So no break tag. That's why everything falling in same line. So name can be anything, and password. If I give something, yeah, there you can see. As I have given redirected to the same place now. So you can see it is falling in the same place. Now suppose, let's see what happens. If I give password correctly, Krishna, then it should go to second. Yeah. So here you can see how the request is being forwarded. So when things work fine, then it should forward to some other resource. This is how you are going to perform the request forward. So how do you forward the request forward is by using the request dispatcher interface. So request dispatcher interface, we use it to dispatch the request to some other resources. That resource can be either a HTML file, or either some image, or either some JSP, or it can be another servlet. It can be another servlet. So in this, I have shown you it is being forwarded to another servlet, or it is being forwarded to another HTML. So this is how you can just forward the request. So one thing which I haven't noticed is it did not display me the wrong password message, which I have expected it to show me this message also. So wrong password, I wanted to see that, but I did not get that wrong password message shown. So it is redirecting to the same page, but where is that wrong password message? So no wrong password message being shown. Anyway, I'll just check that later. So I hope everyone understood this request dispatcher interface, how to use this. So request dispatcher interface is used to redirect the request to some other HTML, or some other JSP, or some other servlet itself. So this is how you are going to perform the navigations of your request. So anyway, tomorrow XML concept I'll be discussing. So along with XML, I'll discuss some of the uses of JSPs as well. It's been late, so let me stop it here. And tomorrow, before getting into XML, I'll show you some of the uses of JSP, and then I'll show you the uses of XML. Any queries, you can post it in the comment section, else post your roll numbers for attendance. Okay, then I hope all of you understood today's session, and all of you have given your roll numbers for attendance. Let's wind up for today and meet for tomorrow's JSP and XML discussion. And be prepared for assessment 2 mock test. Okay, then thank you.